Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Neiman, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 FM, AM 630. WMAL.
7:07 on primary day. Happy Morning Majority. We have Bill O'Brien, Republican Speaker of the New Hampshire House of Representatives. I bet he knows a thing or two about New Hampshire.
I bet he does.
How's it going, Mr. O'Brien?
It's going well, Mary Catherine. Thanks for having me on.
Sure thing. Now, you are a Newt endorser. Tell me about why you endorse him and how you think the people of New Hampshire are receiving him, and maybe where he'll finish today.
Well, I think I've had somewhat of a unique opportunity because being in New Hampshire and being the Speaker of the House up here, I've had numerous opportunities to meet and sit down with the folks who have been running for president up here for quite a while now. And, you know, you could judge who would be the best candidate based on various standards, whether it's party establishment support or proximity to our state. I think the best predictor of a future adherence to principles and success is going to be past performance. And I sat with Newt Gingrich, and we talked about what he did in Washington and his successes here and helping bring about 4 years of balanced budgets. And I think most of us understand that the biggest challenge facing our federal government is its budget deficits. And, you know, we need somebody like Newt Gingrich, who's a Reagan conservative, who can bring a clear vision as well as the understanding of what it takes to turn this situation around, to clear up these deficits.
Well, you picked a dark horse there, because in New Hampshire, I'm looking at 3 polls right now. WMAR has Romney winning by 24. The Suffolk poll has him winning by 13. Even a Democratic poll has him winning by 17 today. So I guess now it becomes an issue of managing expectations. What would it take for Newt Gingrich to declare some kind of victory in New Hampshire? How much does he need to close that gap?
You know, I think the lesson that we're going to take out of New Hampshire is the lesson that we took out of Iowa, which is that a well-financed candidate who has party establishment support just can't connect with a significant number of Republican voters. You know, I've been in the New Hampshire legislature for a while, back in 2006, when Mitt Romney was in the middle of his one term as governor in Massachusetts. He was throwing house parties up here for New Hampshire representatives, and it was becoming clear to all of us that this fellow is going to be running for president. He's been at it now for about 7 years, and, you know, the polls indicate that he might not get, 40% of the vote. 6 out of 10 Republican voters up here want somebody else. You know, the Suffolk poll you mentioned puts him down into the mid-30s. There's a serious problem here if this candidate can't connect after all the money and all the effort and all the party leadership endorsements that he's received.
Now, obviously, you're endorsing Newt Gingrich, but what did you think of Mitt Romney's time as the governor of Massachusetts? Did he do a good job, as well as you can, being a Republican in a completely blue state?
During his debate on Sunday, Mitt Romney said something that I think he intended to have a meaning different than a lot of us took from it. He said, those folks in New Hampshire know me. They saw me as governor. Well, we sure do. We sure did see him. And we saw a Massachusetts moderate. We saw someone who, on Second Amendment rights, never could have got himself elected as a Republican nominee to governor. We saw him on family issues and on fiscal issues. In New Hampshire, this cycle, for example, we closed an $800 million budget deficit, almost 18% of state-funded spending, by not raising any taxes and closing it through spending cuts. That's the way New Hampshire conservatives work with government. And Mitt Romney raised taxes in net $740 million.
Is there such thing, though, as a Massachusetts conservative, or at least one that can win in a statewide election?
Well, I have to admit that here in New Hampshire, we took all the Massachusetts Republicans that drove north,
right,
and including myself. But these issues go to matters of principle. You're either going to understand what it means to protect Second Amendment rights, to understand the rights of the unborn, or you don't. And there's arguments on both sides. I understand that, but you don't unless there's a history of electoral convenience just change because of the office you're running in.
What about protecting the belief in capitalism? And I say that because Mitt Romney has come under criticism lately by Newt Gingrich and his super PAC on Mitt Romney's time at Bain Capital, saying that maybe even Romney needs to hold a press conference to explain some of the deals he made. Now, most people in the business world say, hey, you know what he did was large part what America needs to do and what has been a part of capitalism from its inception. So why does Mitt Romney need to explain that, and why is he being attacked by Newt Gingrich on this issue?
You know, I think a lot of free market advocates such as myself and Speaker Gingrich really admire the venture capital community who can take an idea about a stationery store and grow it into an 80,000 employee staple. Later on, however, in his career, in the activities of Bain Capital, they got in some of these leveraged buyout situations, perfectly legal, but you begin to wonder about whether any one of us would want to be involved in it, where you laden up a company that you've managed to get control of with a bunch of debt, junk bonds, and then you take out a huge dividend, leaving thousands of employees without jobs.
Well,
Legal, sure, but is it something that you or I or most people would feel comfortable with? And I think he's pointing out we wouldn't.
Well, the speaker said yesterday, Speaker Gingrich said, is capitalism really about the ability of a handful of rich people to manipulate the lives of thousands of the people and walk off with the money, or is that somehow a bit of a flawed system? That's a direct quote. You could almost hear those words coming out of the mouth of Barack Obama.
Well, I think what he's pointing out is not whether it's legal or not whether the system needs to be changed. Certainly, I don't think you would want to regulate it. It's just the character of individuals who would decide to make their riches off of a situation like that, where they're leaving a bunch of workers without jobs in their wake. Perfectly legal. Maybe in the end, under Joseph Schumpeter's concept of creative destruction, this is necessary. I just think a lot of us would say, gee, I'm not sure I'd want to be that person.
Well, there are those who think that may be exactly what is needed in Washington, D.C., somebody who will come in and reduce the size of government and make the tough calls. And, yeah, there may be some people left on the sidelines when that happens, but it needs to happen.
Well, there I do think there is a need to reduce the size of government. I think there's a need, as I've discussed with Speaker Gingrich, of looking, for example, the way we did in New Hampshire, of what's our revenues, and let's not spend any more than what's going to be covered in, and let's not raise taxes. As a matter of fact, right here we reduce taxes, and I think Newt Gingrich would do that. That's a different matter than, I think, deciding, well, I need to be rich, and we're going to leave a company laden with junk bond debt, and knowing that it's not going to survive, and people are going to lose their jobs.
Real quick, Mr. Speaker, what do you think of this Huntsman boom? Is it real? Will he inch up towards the top here?
John Huntsman is demonstrating something that's always been true about New Hampshire, that if you spend enough time up here, you're going to start to connect with people. That's what actually other candidates could have benefited from. He's done over 170 house parties and town meetings, and I think that he's connecting with a lot of independent voters who are going to come into the primary as they can and vote for him. I don't know how that translates into other states. He's almost lived up here, and I don't know what his organization is. In other states, I suspect it's not that strong.
All right. Well, lovely place to live. Thank you, Speaker of the New Hampshire House of Representatives, Bill O'Brien. We appreciate